Okay, so now what you need to do is you put your your front and your back together, right sides together. So right sides facing one another. So this is your right side. The outside side of your pants, of the child's pants, will be your right side. Please know my terminology. But anyway, right sides together, and then you pin your inner leg, and this is where you're gonna do your sewing right through across like that. And please make sure that you align your seam line. The middle of your seam is aligned with the middle of the back seam and the front seam. The front seam and the back seam are aligned so that there's a nice equal flow. As you can see, now we're going to put it together. So now we've done the sewing here. I don't know if you can see it. So somewhat over there. As you can see, we've done our inner leg. Now we focus on the outer legs. So you make sure that you pin. I always align my waist. You can always just adjust if it's not in line here, but make sure that your waist is always aligned. And then pin all your sides. As you can see, I've pinned my sides. Remember, whatever you do for this, you do for your lining as well. These are just for winter. And we use African print. This is South African. This is actually very South African, and it's called a Shweshwe. Okay, so now we need to attach the lining to our pants. So what I do is I always start with my foot. And what I do is I turn this. Oh, before anything else, if you want to be sure about everything, just lay them out. For example, this is my front. Please make sure that you mark your front and your back so you don't get them confused. So this is my front. It's facing up, as you can see, but also with the lining, my front is also facing up. So that way they are mirroring, whatever that word is, mirror each other. So if you had to put a mirror here, they mirror each other. So they mirror each other, as you can see. And then what I do is, so you'd place them out like this, the hems, the leg hems facing one another. Then I turn this one over like that. And then you basically take this one and you cover that, matching seam for seam, seam for seam, as you can see, and even this side. So basically you just insert it inside your lining leg, seam for seam. If someone knows a better way of doing this, please let me know. Seam for seam, and then you pin all the way around, but you're just pinning the edge of the hem. So please don't try the inner leg. So I've already done it on this leg. So as you can see, I've pinned it all the way around, and then I'm gonna sew right through. I'm just gonna do this and sew over here all the way around, but I leave a gap. Now I tend to forget that I'm supposed to leave a gap, so I always mark. As you can see, I've used my, it's got a name, but basically it's removable, but it's for fabric marking. It's water soluble fabric marker. So I've used that to kind of remind me that I'm supposed to leave about an inch gap. This is for when I have to insert my elastic. So I've left an inch gap over here. So I'm going to sew from this point all the way around to that point. Alrighty then. Okay, so now we've turned our little pants over. As you can see, they are turned inside. You see, nicely hemmed, and then we're just going to put our elastic in there. There's not a lot of bulking. I mean, if you want, you don't have to cut it, but there's a different method of sewing it if you're not going to do that. So now we need to close our waist, which is a bit not complicated, but they sit aligned like this. As you can see, rough raw edges like that, and then you turn in like you are hemming them together, but you're not doing it like that. If you want, you can, but you're not doing that. And then you just get a hold of that, and you make sure that it keeps itself aligned. It's important that you do it like this because you'll understand later. So we just do that, Hope you can see that. So now it's a bit twisted, and then you pin. So if I had to put it nicely again, it will be folded in and the pin is hidden inside, as you can see, right? You see that? So our pin is inside. So it's, you fold it, but then you pin, you just hold on to the sim like that. You pull out your sim while holding it, and you pin. Please don't let go of your pin because you might end up doing it wrong. Don't let go of what you grab, and then you just pin, right? And then do not go doing the same thing over and over again. We just need to do it from this, on the first half of your pants. So if you started on the side seam, you need to work to your other side seam. I started with the front seam, and I'm gonna work my way through from the front seam all the way to the back seam. So there it is. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it out again. So I am pinning it in a twisted way, so you can see that it's pulling in from inside because of how I'm holding it. So you're pulling it and just making sure that you're pinning it. What I like to do, just because this material stretches, so first be sure that you meet your seam, your next seam, which is right there. So we pin that seam. It's important that you do it the way I do it, and you'll understand why later. So let's just make sure that it's nicely in there. Nicely in there. But I think I've tried and explained it as much as possible in the best of my ability. Now, if I had to pull it back in and make sure that everything is fine, you can see that it starts folding inside. Do you see? So there's a difference between me just placing the fabric and pinning it and me working from inside my hem. So I've hemmed it in like that. So now I want to continue pinning all the way to this seam. Remember, we're only doing half because then we want to sew half, and then we're going to do the other half later. If you're looking at it, it's all nice and twisted in a knot because we're working from the inside. If there's a better way and you know of it, please share, but I've always done it like this. So it's from that point to the other half, and then I'm going to do the other half later. Alrighty, then let me go sew. Okay, so there you have it. It's all done. The gap I was talking about, it's open. As you can see, we have enough to open, and our little elastic is gonna sit right there. So we've got our lining and everything, and look at our hem. Isn't that lovely? So what we're gonna do is what is called a stitch in the ditch. I am gonna pin this nicely, make sure that everything is the same length. So when I talk about that the hem is what it's supposed to be, just depending on what size elastic you use, just make sure that everything is supposed to go in like that. Yeah. So there. Make sure just everything is in good size. So now we're going to do a stitch in the ditch, and that means that we're going to be sewing right over here. So first we're going to make sure this is the right size. Do some ironing, make sure everything is in place. And then we're going to do, what we're going to do, when we say a stitch in the ditch, this is literally a stitching. Okay, let this focus a bit. Stitching in the stitch right here. So where these two fabrics meet, that is our ditch. So we're going to be sewing right in there as much as possible, because no one's that perfect. Some people are, but me, I try. So anyway, we're going to sew right in there, but where there's a gap, remember we have our gap for elastic. Let's say now, so what you're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on the waist. So we're going to stitch in the ditch on the waist, stitch in the ditch on the hems, and then as it's sitting, first we're going to pin. Obviously I'm going to show you the pinned version, and then we're going to start and stop with this with our gap. The reason being is if you do a stitch in the ditch across, you're going to close it and we're not going to be able to insert our elastic. So you need to keep this open. This is way too open for my liking. So, but anyway, so we're gonna stitch wee all the way around and stop here, stop there, all the way there. Make sure everything is even, it's all the same size. Yeah, let's get pinning and then we're gonna get sewing. I'm so happy. She's gonna hope she loves these. So I've pinned it up, as you can see. So now when I sew, I'm gonna hit right over there. Oh, there's our prints. We've done the sewing, as you can see. That's the gap. That's a stitch in the ditch. So on the stitch in the ditch is something that you can see on the outside, but it's supposed to be completely invisible on the inside. Girl tries her best. Girl tries her best. As you can see, that's why we call it a stitch in the ditch. So I get questioned a lot about how I measure elastic. Sometimes, I mean, we want it to stretch, but depending on the type of stretch, this one is kind of very, as you can see, it's not a soft stretch. I mean, it's a hard stretch. Oh, they're both hard stretches. So let me pull it like that. Sorry. So as you can see, depending on the stretch, but I always measure them the same. So some people go half, but I don't like that because it gives a very ruched look. So I always go like 2/3 of the waist, and then I just do that, and then I double it up, and I get my measurement. And then there we go, and that is what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna tuck it in, and what I use to tuck it in is a safety pin. And so I'm gonna do that now. So we've done our sewing, as you can see. So now we just need to, like I said, it's gonna sit funny, and that's okay. It's a good sign. And then you just turn it back over, and then you tuck it back in. You see, it's nice. It's sitting just the way we want it to sit. Now we need to do the other half. So we're gonna do the same little prickly thing we did, where we're pulling. So I've done this one leg part, as you can see. Now I need to do this other half. It's up to you which half you do first, so don't stress about that. So lucky for me, these two sims are already snatched in. So make sure we find this sim, and then we align them, as you can see. And then we make sure we pin them. And so we're just gonna, it's so nice once it's overturned, it's easy to just pin. But remember to leave a gap so that you can insert your what's this thing called now, your elastic. So we're just gonna do that. So as you can see, it starts twisting these pants together. So whether you like it or not, there's going to be a gap, which is good. That means we can insert our thingamabob. So there we go. But anyway, we're just sewing together, having conversations. As you can see now, there's this gap, about 1.5 inches left. Just try to go as far as you can. Be careful not to stretch the lining so much. So there, I've pinned everything into place. Now I'm gonna go and do some sewing, and I'm gonna show you the finished product later. Oh, am I supposed to take a nice picture? Wait, no. Okay, sorry. Oh, look at baby in her pants. Oh, she looks so pretty. Go stand over there so mommy can take a picture. Oh, you don't want to?